should be, let me bring up my digital.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, that's what you're looking at is my digital whiteboard, so that I can write stuff. Oh man, hold on. I gotta close it out and open it up again. Yeah. So whatever I write, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You can see that okay?
Yep.
All right, so that's the way it works. It's virtually the same as us being in person and me writing on a piece of paper. The only difference really is going to be the problems that we're going to work on. Do you have a review sheet for your test?
No, we don't.
Do you have some material, problems that you either have for homework or something that we can review and help prepare you for this quiz?
What one? We just did factoring quadratic expressions.
Okay. Why don't you give me some quadratics and we'll go through the factoring of them.
4x squared plus 7x plus 3.
Okay. Are these, do you know if these are quadratics that factor nicely or do they require the quadratic formula?
I'm not sure how to tell.
Okay. Well, let's try to factor it. So let's go through the steps of factoring. What goes here and here?
X.
Well, if I put just x there, then those multiplied together need to produce that term. So it can't be x, it could be 2x and 2x. That produces 4x squared. But notice it could also be 4x and x. In other words, there's a couple of choices for factoring that. But let's try 2x. What I tell most of my students is always use the factors that are closest together in your first trial. So if my choices are 4 and 1 or 2 and 2, I'm going to try 2 and 2. Okay? The next thing I look at is the sign on the constant, which is plus. What does that mean? Is to the regards of the signs that are going to go here.
Positive or?
Well, they have to be the same. They have to either be plus plus or minus minus. And to determine which, we look at the sign on the middle term. Since that's plus, I know it's plus plus. And now the last thing to do is look for factors of 3. Well, there's only, was that a plus? That was a plus 3. There's only two factors of 3, and that's 3 and 1. It doesn't matter if I put the 3 here and the 1 there or the other way around. Now, what does that give us for a middle term if I do that? The way I like to do this is that gives me 6x. That gives me another 2x. That would give me a middle term of 8x, which isn't right. So I need to go back and re-examine my choices for the first choices that I made. Let's go back and try 4x and see if that works. Well, that doesn't work either, but now notice that it matters if I put the 3 here and the 1 there. It does work. That's 4x. That's 3x. Add them together, you get the middle term that we're supposed to have. So this is the right factoring. X plus 1 times 4x plus 3. Now, may not be the exact technique that they teach you at Evergreen. There's lots of techniques for factoring. There's a California method, there's the box method, there's the diamond method. All of them have a bit of trial and error in them, just like this one did. In other words, I didn't know at the get-go whether it was 2x times 2x or x times 4x. One of those two. Since there weren't very many factors of 3, just one set of factors, then I only had to experiment with the first term. But I got it right. So let's try another one.
Got 2x squared plus 9x minus 5.
Okay. Now there's no question about what goes here and here. It's got to be x and 2x. Now when I look at this minus sign, what does that tell me?
I don't know.
Tells me the signs have to be different. Has to either be minus, plus, and in this case, because there's a 2 here and there's not a 2 there, well, I also have to consider plus minus, which might be different.
Okay.
Okay? So now I'm looking for factors of 5. What are they?
5 and 1.
Okay, so let's just start trying some. I'll try 5 and 1 there. Does that work? No, it gives me, notice that that gives me minus 10x and plus x, which would give me a total of minus 9x. If I'm close, I just need to make this plus and this minus. And now I have plus 10x minus x, and that gives me the middle term. So I know I have it right. And notice that in order to check to see if I have it right, I don't need to check this term, and I don't need to check this term. Because the process of factoring, I got what I got based on those terms. The term that I always need to check is the middle term. So when I'm done factoring something, I always do this check right here. I call it my double smiley faces check. And this will give me my middle term. Multiply 5 times 2x, multiply x times 1, minus 1, excuse me. Add those two together. I get my middle term. That means I've done it correctly. Okay? Okay. Give me one more and let's have you try it.
Do 12x squared minus x minus 6.
Okay. This is going to be harder because there's lots of choices in how to factor 12, and there's lots of choices in how to factor 6.
Okay.
So we're going to have to do a little trial and error here. I would always start with 4x and 3x as opposed to 6x and 2x or 12x and 1x. Just because most of the problems that the schools give out, the result is the two factors that are closer together. Okay? So what can I try next? So what do I know based on this minus sign?
The other one's going to be a minus sign?
The signs are going to be opposite. It's either going to be plus minus or minus plus. Has to be. It's the only way we'll be able to get a minus 6 is if my signs are opposite one another. Now we want factors of 6. Well, let's start with 3 and 2. Does that work?
No.
No, but it's close, right? Because that gives me plus 9x minus 8x, so it gives me a plus x in the middle, which means is all I have to do is to turn the signs around. Let's make this one the minus, this one the plus, and that's going to work because that'll be minus 9x. This will be plus 8x. Add those two together, you get the middle term. Okay? So they're always going to be harder to do if you have lots of choices on how to factor. And the fact that that was 12 and 6, there conceivably were like 10 combinations that you could have tried in order to figure it out. Luckily, they gave us one that was using the factors that were close together. Now, since we don't have a lot of time tonight, is there anything else you want to make sure you get covered tonight besides factoring quadratics?
Most of it's just factoring.
Okay, well, let's just practice doing more of that then.
Okay.
Let's do another one.
The only other one I have is 2x squared minus 5x minus 3.
Okay, this will actually be an easy one because there's only two factors for that number and there's only two factors for that number. So we won't have to try a lot of possibilities. So get me started here.
Pull out 2x.
Can you see where my cursor is here?
Yeah.
So what goes? Okay. What next?
Your signs have to be different.
Okay. But it might matter. In other words, if this was x and x, then I could just write plus and minus. But the fact that they have different coefficients means I have to give consideration to the fact that it might be minus plus also.
Okay.
Okay. So what next?
Your factors are 3.
Which are?
3 and 1.
Okay. And I don't have any preference as to where to start. I'll try that. What does that produce for a middle term?
3, you get 3x, and then negative 2. I got negative x.
Okay, so that's not right. So let me try switching the numbers. So let me put the 1 there and the 3 there. Now what do you get for a middle term?
Got x minus 6x.
Ha!
That's
Yeah.
negative 5x.
So we get plus x minus 6x. There's our middle term. So we got it right. And that's pretty much how you want to handle all factoring problems. You want me to, we've got a few minutes here. Let me find one. I'll give you. I need my algebra book. One moment. Factoring 256. We'll make these fairly simple. How about this one? Make sure you can do the ones without the coefficient in front of the x term. So what goes here and here?
X.
What are the signs?
Minus.
No, they can't both be minus because we wouldn't get a -4, so they have to be opposite.
Okay.
So it's got to be plus minus, and I put them there because that's going to be the same as minus plus. Notice. In other words, I don't have to do another minus plus because the coefficients of the x are the same. So now what's the next step?
Factors of 4.
That factors of 4 that subtract to the number 3. What are they?
4 and 4 negative 1.
Just 4 and 1. Not that subtract to negative 3, but just subtract to the number 3.
Okay.
Okay, so 4 and 1 are our factors. Put the bigger factor with the sign of the middle term. So the 4 goes there because the middle term is a minus. So I'm going to put the bigger factor with the minus, the smaller one with the plus. Do my check. I got plus x. I got minus 4x. Gives me the middle term. I got it right. Okay? So as long as this doesn't have a coefficient, I can use those kind of rules like the factors of 4 have to subtract to that number, or if this is a plus, factors of 4 have to add to that number.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do one more here. We got just about time for one. Let me find a good one. I'm going to do another one with that just because I want you to get this principle. And this principle only applies if it's x and x. It doesn't apply when it's 2x times x. In other words, if it's 2x and x, then you have to really use a lot of trial and error. But if it's not, there's an easy method of doing this.
Okay.
So this is x and x. Now I examine the sign. What does that mean?
They're the same.
And are they minus minus or plus plus?
Plus plus.
Now I want factors of 88 that do what?
Add to 19.
Right. What are they?
11 and 8.
So that's easy. So factoring is pretty easy when you have x and x. Only becomes a little more difficult when you have something like 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, like one of them you gave me. Then you don't have any simple, you can't say that factors of 3 that add or subtract to the number 5 anymore. Because one of those factors of 3 is multiplying 2x, not just x. Okay? All right. One of the things about my online sessions is I record all of them, and then I'll send you a link to look at that file if you ever have a desire to review it.
Okay.
Say after we're done tonight, you forget how to factor some of those harder ones, and you want to go back over and see how we did it. You could just review this file. It's a YouTube video file.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my computer takes a couple hours to process it. It's got to convert it into a WMV file. And so it won't be until tomorrow morning that I send that link to you.
Okay.
Give me an email address where you want me to send it.
Do SilasParkin, SilasParkin 01 at gmail.com.
Okay. So by tomorrow morning, I'll get that out to you. You probably will be off to school, but maybe it'll help you for tomorrow night in reviewing for that test on Wednesday.
Okay.
Now, as far as tomorrow night goes, and in fact, every time we have a session from here on, I will just text the meeting ID number to you. You don't have to go back to that website. You'll have an icon on your desktop that you can just double click, and the first thing it'll ask for is a meeting ID number, and you'll be in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. What phone number should I send this text to?
The one you called works.
Okay, that receives texts.
I think so. That's my mom's cell phone.
As long as it's a cell phone, it'll receive a text.
Yeah.
If it's a landline, it might not. So I'll just text it to that number, this one here, which is 303-350-7802.
Yeah.
Is that a 303? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will talk to you tomorrow at 8 and plan on having an hour-long session online.
Okay.
Okay, Silas. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You do. Bye.